Okay. Good morning, Dr. Glenn.
Good morning.
I'm here to ask your permission, to actually interview you for my human services class at Tidewater Community College.
I give you permission.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you're okay with you, we can go on with my first question.
Absolutely, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, so what would be a typical day for you or a month be like?
Typically, I'm interviewing veterans all the time, taking phone calls, making assessments on a veteran's vocational needs, as well as assessing their mental health, medical conditions, and we also are concerned about stability in their housing. So we address homelessness with veterans as well. So typically throughout the day, I'm either meeting with veterans face to face, talking with them on the phone, answering emails, and we now have transitioned into video counseling. So I actually provide video counseling
Oh,
for veterans that have some challenges with coming into the office.
oh wow.
So my typical day is face to face, and then also writing reports to account for all of the activities that we do with veterans and assisting them with getting their education and getting them suitable employment. So we submit reports locally to our supervisors, but we also have reports that I have to respond to Congress at
Oh, wow.
time. Mm-hmm.
By yourself, ma'am?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that too much, you think?
No, I don't. I think it's called time management.
Yes,
I think the appropriate training
correct.
from my education to previous training, on the job training. It takes about, for a good voc rehab counselor, probably about 2.5 to 3 years to be fully comfortable and proficient in
Yes.
most of their job tasks.
Yeah.
The good thing is that we have a number of resources that we can use if we don't know something
True, true.
that is available. We have a number of
Resources.
regulations. We have congressionals that we can use to justify our decisions. We usually have templates that we can utilize and a number of software and websites that we use to do our day-to-day tasks.
Oh, wow.
So that's what makes it manageable,
Right.
because you need to utilize all those resources that are being provided.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's why I have so much respect to you, ma'am. Okay, then my next question is, what do people in this job say that, what they like most?
Currently, a lot of the counselors are not happy with this job.
Oh,
Because it's very number driven, because the only way that Congress can make a justification for budgeting is that we have to have evidence that we're actually helping people.
oh.
And a lot of times that doesn't work out as well as we would like it to.
Oh.
But there's things that we just don't have any control over. So some of the counselors don't really fully understand, even if you only work with a person 6 months, you made them better than what they were when they first came through the door. Even if they don't complete a degree or get a job, they've learned some things about themselves. They've actually maybe attended a course or two. They've interacted in the community. So it's always beneficial with whatever we do. So job satisfaction has to come from within internal. So I would say most of the time the people don't like the job,
Right.
it's because they haven't found themselves yet.
Yeah.
So it's more of a self-awareness as to, this is not a job, this is a service.
I understand, yes.
It's a different mindset.
Right,
So my mindset is I'm serving,
right.
not a job. A
True.
job is a widget.
Yeah, I guess.
Put the
yeah.
put the widget into place.
Right.
But a service means you have to have an investment in yourself and investment in the people that you service.
Correct. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's also you already answered my question, because I'm gonna ask about what's the least. So
Okay.
you technically kind of
Yeah.
already answered it. Okay.
Yeah. Some of the least things they really, it is number driven,
Yeah.
and you usually don't have enough hours in the day to complete everything.
Yeah.
But that is part of being in the human service field. There's
Right.
always a to-do list. And you have to set realistic goals
Right.
about some things, that there's going to be variations. Oftentimes there's times veterans come in for an entitlement decision, but in the midst of that conversation, I'm finding out that they actually really need some mental health services immediately. Well, that shifts everything that I might have had on that to-do list.
Yes.
But I saved this veteran from possibly harming himself or someone else.
I understand.
So my to-do list is not so concrete that it's not fluid, that I can't move it around. And when people don't see that they can do that, they often feel dissatisfied. But my satisfaction comes from really knowing if I met with one veteran all day just to help that one veteran, doesn't matter how many checks I got off my to-do list, because the main thing was servicing that one person at a time.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess, is it safe to say that once you start thinking that this is just a job, that's when you're kind of like, go downfall, I guess?
Exactly. Anyone that's dealing with human services or dealing with people,
Yeah.
And we're not talking retail people, we're talking about people's lives.
Yes.
People that need housing, people need training, people need food.
Yeah.
You can't just say it's a job.
Correct.
And there is no time. There's an ideal time for something to happen, but then it's a realistic time,
Right.
So therefore you have to balance in between those two things and realize that you're here to do ultimately the service.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Not a job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you actually already answered this question,
Okay.
but I think not yet really.
Mm-hmm.
But what attracted you to this type of work?
Well, actually, I was in law enforcement
Oh.
for a number of years.
Oh, wow.
And because of my service-connected disability, I no longer felt it was safe enough to be out on the street
Yeah.
and qualifying with a weapon.
Oh, wow.
So I had to make a shift,
Mhm.
but I still wanted to help people.
Right. Still service.
I still wanted to serve.
Yeah.
And so I got attracted to mental health services
Mhm.
and helping individuals that have, first of all, accepting their mental illness,
Mhm.
but then learning how to develop healthy skills so that they can still live and function.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of drew me to the mental health field. But I wanted to stay in the government.
Mhm.
So I said, what's a good balance? Because some of the biggest hiccups with veterans is finding where do I go after the military.
Right. True.
But how do I do that with all the baggage I got from the military?
Mhm.
And I thought the perfect combination was me being able to understand the mental illness and the transition, but also giving them a sense of hope that there are going to be hiccups from scars and battles, because I had to leave law enforcement because of it.
Mhm.
But you can overcome it when you start realizing you still have much value, that you still have the potential to do some things that'll be fulfilling, which is what I had to do, is showing them that the recreation is not just in black and white, but it's looking at me, because I had to recreate myself. So that's what drew me to particularly Voc Rehab, but also dealing with the mental illness, where individuals feel like because of what they've experienced in the military, that it now holds them hostage. And it doesn't hold them hostage.
Mhm.
It's how they view where they are now,
True. Yes.
not where they were yesterday,
Yes.
and where they want to go tomorrow.
Yes.
So that's the beauty and what drew me really to this field.
To the field. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
And that's what keeps me here every day.
yeah. That's true too.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
Oh man, you inspire me, ma'am. Okay. How much education or training is required to qualify for this job? Or for the market?
Okay. For the vocational rehabilitation counselor for the federal government, you must have a master's degree in either rehabilitation counseling, psychology, education, any of those type of fields that deal with the human person.
Right.
Understanding anatomy, because sometimes there's individuals with physical disabilities, understanding what those limitations really look like in the workforce. So everyone has at least a master's degree.
Yeah.
And some other, they've done some type of internship or residency in the field while they were in training in order to qualify, to meet the minimum qualifications to come into Voc Rehab.
Or any certification? Is it?
No, not
Right.
certifications. Now they are titled certified rehabilitation counselors, but that certification
Or-
is not
or-
recognizable.
Or licensing.
Licenses is not required for a
Oh.
voc rehab counselor. I'm licensed because I'm a clinician.
Oh.
So I'm an LPC, but I'm also a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
But those are all because of my mental health background.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how does one advance in this company, ma'am?
Well, advancement really is time and grade, working in the field like I talked about earlier. In order for a counselor really to become experienced and proficient, it takes about 2.5 to 3 years. For the most part, most people sometimes stay right as a voc rehab counselor for their entire career. They don't want to advance into management.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because it depends. Your management scope could be you supervising people, or you would have to go to one of the larger offices or our central office where you will be managing programs or entities within the program. So sometimes people don't want to make that transition
Yes.
or relocation due to family needs or whatever their commitments are in this area.
Right.
So the transition, but the opportunity
Yes.
is wide.
Yeah.
You can do a number of things. You can either supervise people, you can supervise programs,
Yeah.
you can learn the aspects of the business entities with contracts, because we deal with contractors all the time.
Right.
So it's a number of entities within the umbrella of vocational rehabilitation that you could advance into if there's a particular area that you would like that you want to focus on.
Yeah, but I can understand, I guess, why some people don't want to advance, because you already had so much on your plate already. I guess when you go management, there's more responsibility or something like that.
Well, I think it depends on the personality.
Yeah.
Some people, I was a program manager before. I love managing programs.
Oh.
I don't like managing people.
Oh.
So I'm more of a program manager and
Right.
analysis, or doing more of auditing
Yes.
of a program. That's my strength.
Okay.
So therefore, if I wanted to advance, I will be looking more into program analysis or investigations, because we have an inspector general that investigates concerns. Those are the areas that would be for an advancement for me. But each counselor just has to identify what area they would like to advance if they are looking to do that.
Okay. Okay. My next question would be, and I'm not sure if you really want to answer it, but is what is the base annual salary for the job, like on the entry or at the mid-level or the top level?
Well, with our job, we have 3 tiers. Some counselors come in as a GS9, 11, and 12. Okay, so a GS9 in this area is somewhere around $60,000. But most of the counselors within a 3-year period of time will go from a 9 to a 12.
So that's the mid-level, or?
That's the lowest level.
Oh, wow. So it could be higher than that? Oh, wow. That's cool. That's very good. And 2.5 years, you said, ma'am?
About 3.5 years that they can advance up, and they will be at the lower 70,000s.
I see. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for answering that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's public knowledge. The GS pay scale is on any website.
Oh yeah, but
yeah,
I don't know, like in here on this like on the Veteran Affairs, I guess. I'm not sure.
And every federal job scale is on public record. So you can look at under USA Jobs. The job announcement will tell you where the scale starts at. Most of the time, people won't ever know where you're at in that scale. But that scale can start as low as 40,000 and go up as high as 128,000.
Oh wow. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, but do they give bonuses? Like, if you perform
well,
yeah,
you perform well.
Yes, ma'am.
They do annual evaluations, performance evaluations. There's 5 levels to that. If you happen to have performed all year long and outstanding, it's potentially that you can receive some type of monetary bonus. but there are a number of awards that are used throughout the federal system.
Yes, ma'am.
They can do on-the-spot awards. They can do time-off awards. They can do a number of recognitions. I was recognized sometime last year as an employee of the quarter or something like that.
Oh,
So there's a number of rewards and incentives to
Okay.
encourage
okay.
people to continue to perform high.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I guess that's good. It
Mm.
motivate you more too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is there do I have like do I have a reasonable chance to find a job in this field?
At your grade level with the associate's degree,
Yes.
probably at the state level.
Okay.
There is potential for that. They call job coaches,
Okay.
where individuals would actually go out into the field and assist someone with transitioning into employment. But the potential is there. It's a growing field,
Right.
and it's a growing field on all different levels, entry level, mid-level, and management level,
Yeah.
because it's a continuum.
Right.
People only think of it from veterans, but there are a number of people that are not veterans that utilize the state program for voc rehab, because disabilities go across the board. They're
Right.
not just targeted to only veterans.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true. That's
Yeah.
Okay.
So the potential is there.
Okay. That's
Mhm.
good. But like you said, but that's here. You said you have to have a master's.
Right, but the state level, that's not always required. You also have other local programs like Pride Industry does not require a it only requires an associate's degree. It's one other one I'm trying to think. The Up Center, they do some job coaching, and Eggleston is another. Those are one of the 3 biggest industries in the area
Okay.
that utilize
Yeah,
individuals with your grade level
Okay.
in this area and field.
Okay.
Mhm.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Mhm.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say are the top like the personality traits, that someone needs to be, doing good well in this kind of field?
In this kind of field, personality traits, number 1 is humanitarian. That they want to actually care about the well-being of others. The other one is detail oriented, because you have to kind of maintain a good, tight timeline and time management, which requires detail.
Yes.
Because you do a lot of reports,
Right.
you need to be detail oriented so
Yes.
that you're not mixing up numbers, people's PII numbers, or their names, demographics, things like that. And like I said, some reports go up to Congress. And I think the third one overall is flexibility. They have to have the characteristic of flexibility. There's nothing so rigid that it can't be changed. It's a fluid field. In other words, it's like biology.
Yes.
What they discovered 20 years ago about measles is something different than they know about measles now. So they're always fluid, because we're like a science.
You mean like adjusting?
Adjusting.
Yeah.
You need to be flexible to know that how needs were met
Right.
5 years ago may not be the
Not
same
the
thing
Yes.
currently.
Right.
20 years ago in this field, they were not thinking about special mouses and chairs and different equipment to assist someone in working in a job,
Right.
because they didn't think about their back injuries or their shoulder injuries or
Right.
their neck issues. They
Right.
haven't thought about even sight and hearing. Background noise has an impact in the work environment. So you have to be flexible enough to know
Yes.
what's changing with people, what's changing in the environment, and what's changing in the industry. Don't think what you learned 20 years ago
Right.
is going to be fluid today.
True.
There are some that don't take advantage of the continuing education. I think it's important because there's a number of things
True.
that impact.
Right.
Our newest impact with voc rehab, even though a lot of people don't realize it connects, is our opiate addiction.
The what, ma'am?
The opiate addiction. Individuals that are addicted to pain medication.
Oh.
So if someone is struggling with pain
Right.
and they're addicted to pain medication,
Yes, I could see that.
that has a huge impact, but that's not something that's readily talked about,
Yeah.
but it needs to be addressed.
Yes.
And you find it more likely, we see it emerging more and more when that veteran transitions from school to get ready to go to employment. Because some of your employees are going to require, number one, a drug test. Number two, you have to get up and be at a job at a certain time every day. Well, if you have a drug addiction and it's pain medication,
It's hard to
it's going to be hard for you to balance all of that. So these are the things that we were not talking about opiates even 5 years ago.
True. Yes.
Now we are.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we are. Now are we not talking about them with them transitioning? We're talking about them that have lost jobs because of their opiate addiction.
Right.
But they need to be retrained so that they can find suitable employment
Correct.
once they address that issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
I agree. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that's why I say it has to be flexible. You cannot close your eyes or blind yourself that these things don't matter. Everything matters with the current, things that are currently going on. We could have, like the incident with the shooting in, I guess that was in May or June in Virginia Beach. There was a spike of veterans wanting services because they could not work at the city of Virginia Beach. And the city of Virginia Beach is a very large
Yes.
employer here locally. Some of those people could not return back to work, even though they were not right there at that incident, just the very thought of it. Just, they're talking about the one down in Texas, El Paso, Texas, at Walmart. The Walmart reopened, but the employees can't go back through the door because of their trauma.
Fear. Yeah.
That's a vocational rehabilitation concern, because now you may have to retrain people.
Yes.
Once they get past their trauma, they may not can go back into that job field.
Oh, I could understand.
Yeah. So those are the things, that's why you have to be flexible, because it's going to change every day. Anything can happen and change every day.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
It's heavy.
It's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
And that's why the education and the experience is important. It's not just, I think I can come in here and do it and talk to people. No. You have to think about all of the entities that could very well impact an individual from having suitable employment. And those incidents like that can impact someone from maintaining. They were suitably employed until that situation occurred. Now what do we do? After they've gone through the treatment and addressed their trauma, what do we do with them if they can't go back?
Yes.
We have to look at what is going to be suitable for them.
Yes. That's right. Wow. Okay, I understand, ma'am.
Yep.
Okay, ma'am. I don't know if you want to add more on that before
No.
I added on my next question.
No,
Okay.
you're good. I'm good. Uh-huh.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, so describe your most meaningful work experience here, ma'am. I'm sure there's a lot.
I think the biggest one was a veteran had graduated and had been working with a different personnel person with assisting them with employment, and whatever it was just not a good fit. And then they reevaluated, made a decision that this person was really ready for employment, but wanted to match them up with me. And I remember the first meeting that this person said, I feel like giving up.
Oh.
And me telling them, no, you can do that.
Right.
And walking that person through how to fix their resume and what to look for job announcements. It was a lot more than my to-do list, because I thought it was going to be just our meeting.
Right.
Was more extensive.
Yes.
Within 3 weeks, that person started getting interviews. And that person got multiple job offers because they were ready for suitable employment. And I just heard from them that they actually been promoted.
Oh, wow.
On their position, just being in that position a year. And I thought that was one of the ones that really stood out, because of they completing school, didn't get a good match, and then just felt defeated. And me saying no.
True. Yes.
No. No.
Right.
You present well, you're articulate, your resume says you're ready. And they went with it. And it was the best, one of the best outcomes that I could have asked for. And literally 3 weeks they were calling saying, I got a job interview. And then calling again, I got another one.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to take this job. And before they could be on this first job, 30 days, they got another job offer.
Oh, wow.
And they took that second job and been there a year. And they're now being promoted up.
Oh, wow.
It was because somebody said, no, you can't.
True, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this is why going back to my previous question about just, what are the things like, what make you choose this job, this reasons like this one,
Yeah, this is the reason
would you
why.
want to move on,
Yeah, yeah. This is the sole purpose of seeing, even if it's that one person.
Yes.
That one person was worth all of the other cases that might not be as positive, because that person was able to get exactly what they wanted as far as the job field, pay scale, and everything. And they were blown away because previously they had not gotten anything. Yeah. Okay. It's an investment.
True.
It's a genuine investment in actually looking at what's being presented and knowing what can be done with it.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's kind of, my next question is kind of related to, I was thinking about another question actually in my mind, and when I see this question, kind of relate to that too in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Describe a time when you saw a problem as a potential opportunity, and then it was a problem and it becomes a potential opportunity. What did you do?
There was a problem with staffing in our Richmond office.
Oh, okay.
And, well, there was 2 opportunities. Let me do the first one.
Mm-hmm.
There was an opportunity for me not just to do voc rehab counseling, but to do employment coordinating. And that way I get to see it all the way through. And no one was really interested in taking on that additional responsibility. And I jumped on it, and I'm glad I did, because I now have contacts with employers in the community that when I meet with a veteran face to face on that first visit and they tell me some of their interests, or either that second visit, I can almost target in my head some of the potential employers that they may have. Those are the 3 like I thought about easily, because I've had contact with them. Yeah. I know what they're looking for. I know who they're looking for.
Right.
So it was a problem because we didn't have anyone that wanted to do it.
Right.
And then I realized that it was not just the potential for me to grow, but it's also to make the linkage a lot sooner for veterans. Because when a person is getting ready to graduate under my caseload, 6 months before, I'm already talking to employers about them.
Oh.
I'm already saying, and even some veterans have needed internship opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to talk to employers to say, will you give them opportunity, which sometimes evolves into a permanent position.
Yeah.
The second time was in the Richmond office. We were short-staffed. We're still short-staffed. And they needed people to travel up there. And I told them I would travel.
To Richmond?
The Richmond office, yeah. The reason why I took on that task is because you need to know the demographics. Everyone doesn't want to stay in Hampton Roads and work after they graduate. Some of them want to migrate to maybe Richmond or Northern Virginia. That was a good opportunity for me to start making connections further up north. For people that are willing to transition to positions in the northern area.
Yeah, you know what, ma'am? I could even do that, right? I know it's an opportunity you're saying, sorry, but it's not really opportunity to you. But you're still thinking about the people you're helping. It's like opportunity to them.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about, okay, where's the bigger picture?
Yeah.
And for me, it's just a matter of Eventually, I will transition to something else.
Yeah.
But look at all the wealth of experience I've gained
Mm.
from a problem, what looked like to be a problem,
Yes.
and the experience. I
Right.
can actually say I've serviced all of Hampton Roads with employment services and voc rehab. I've serviced the Richmond demographics all the way to Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
There's very few people that can say that and work in one place.
Yes.
So from that side, it does personally and professionally benefit me.
Yes.
But ultimately, I was looking at how is this going to help?
Yeah, like you said, the bigger picture.
The bigger picture is how is this going to help the veterans?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, okay.
Thank you.
It's always noise in the hallway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you, ma'am, for doing that. Actually. Okay. Sorry. I have two more questions, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Tell me about the toughest decision you had to make in the last 6 months.
Toughest decision in the last 6 months. Probably, I don't know if it was that tough.
Everyone probably everything is easy.
Well, it made the decision made the decision came based on a person's own actions. You know, oftentimes our job is not just to say you're entitled and get you in a school, but we have to have follow-ups and documentation and things like that. And there are times that because of the restraints with regulation,
Yes.
you have to make you don't make the call. The regulation makes the call.
Right.
You have to discuss the call of somebody's desire to do one thing
Right.
when the regulation won't support it. And the regulation is built off of, is the veteran service connected disabilities going to be aggravated? Is this meets within the testing that has been given? And does the labor market support it? Those are primarily the three things. So therefore, there are a number of times that vets have these wonderful ideas and I want them to jump on. I'm like, yeah, that would be probably awesome. But the regulation has its limitations.
Yes.
But then I also have to think back, when I had to make a tough decision,
Right.
I made the investment in myself without the benefit of voc rehab
Oh.
because I knew it was something I wanted to do.
Oh.
So I
I
think
see.
that, you know, in the scheme of things, yes, I have to tell them this is the scope in which we can service you. But ultimately, if they really want to invest in that, they can do that as well. So sometimes those are kind of tough because it's difficult for people sometimes to understand and they kind of feel like it's personal and it really isn't. We have to justify everything because we're spending tax dollars
Right.
on someone to get trained to get into the workforce. And we have to use that tax dollar as wisely as possible, ensuring that we're not training someone that's going to aggravate their service-connected disability, that we're training them in a job that the labor market supports, and that their testing and things of that nature that we looked at has supported that direction, you know. And that's heart-wrenching because sometimes people say, but you're not, it's not me not being fair.
Yeah.
It is within
Yeah.
the regulations.
So is that like saying like, you know, doing the right thing? Because, you know, sometimes they always say like doing the right thing is always not the easy way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's the right thing is not always easy when someone else really has a heart desire for something.
Right. Yeah.
And you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you have your kids and they want to eat the whole bag of candy and you have to distribute 2 pieces. And they're not understanding. At 3 or 4 years old, they don't understand why they can't have the whole bag.
Yeah, especially during the Halloween.
During Halloween, right. But you have to make that decision because you're making that decision because ultimately it's going to impact them.
True.
They're going to end up sick.
Yes.
Then it's going to be
Right.
either a doctor trip or up all night with an achy stomach. Well, when you think of it, that's simplistic. When you think about someone that desires to do maybe a welding job, and you know you're looking at their service connected disabilities, but
Okay.
I enjoy it. It's fun, and I can work by myself, and I just like, and you're like, I can't ethically
Right.
do that.
Yes.
But there are other things that you can look at doing.
Right. True. That is true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options out there.
It is a number of options.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get boxed
We just
in.
got there. You go. We
Yeah.
just concentrated on that
That
area.
area.
only.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially the veterans, because they're so used to doing, for example, they've been working, for example, 20 years or something. That's what they've been doing. So they always think that that's the only thing they could do.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then I have to say, I'm sorry. And you're an adult. You're not a college student
Yeah.
or a high school student. And I'm saying this is the direction. This is an adult that has served in the military, has taken care of themselves, taken care of family, probably transitioned a number of times throughout the country, throughout the world.
Yeah.
And I'm standing here behind the desk saying, I don't think that's going to fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I can understand, it's hard for them. It's hard for you to tell them that they cannot do that no more.
Right.
Right? It's things
Yeah.
that they've been doing for so long time.
So long. Yeah.
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 I could understand both sides actually. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, ma'am. Okay, last one. Tell me about a time. Oh, it's pretty a tough question, I guess.
Okay.
Tell me about a time you knew you were right, but still had to follow directions or guidelines. Is there a time?
Say that question again now. That I
tell-
was right, but I had to follow the guidelines.
yes, ma'am.
But
Yeah.
what? So are you saying the guidelines didn't concur with me being right?
It seems like it's like that. Tell me about a time you knew you were right, but still had to follow directions or guidelines.
We don't have those kind of conflicts, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I don't,
Yes.
because I follow the book.
Yeah.
I don't. I
Okay.
think that's a question for someone that decides to become a hero and feel like they're right. But what is right is the regulation. The regulation was not built off of a one woman or one man team. It
Yes.
was statistically
Correct.
and scientifically put together.
Right.
So who am I to deviate from that? And there's so many variations in there. So it's a lot of gray in a regulation.
Yes.
So if it's a lot of gray areas in a regulation, how could I be in conflict with it? Because there's so many variations, and a lot of it is subjective.
True.
So I have not had that kind of conflict because I realized it didn't box me in the first place. But there is checkpoints that have to be met. And if it's saying these 3 elements need to be met, I can't change it to 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not wrong or right. The regulation said it's 3. I become right when I decide I don't think the 3rd one means anything.
Yes. So,
So that's not ever.
but still not. Even though it's in there, the regulations there. You said the 3rd one, it doesn't make sense, right? We're still gonna follow, because it's in there.
You know what? I have not found, and maybe I'm the one that sees the glass full. I've not found that it was frivolous.
Right.
I found it might not have been useful at that moment. If I keep doing the job long enough,
Right.
that number 3 is going to mean something one day. It's covering for some reason because, once again, it was not compartmentalized with 1 or 2 people coming up with it in the first place. It's a manual that has been put together by a team of people from different educations, from different backgrounds, looking at it from a different scope. So even though I may not have had to employ number 3 yet,
Yes.
I think in time, number 3 will come into play.
Right.
So I never discard something just because I haven't used it yet.
True. Yeah, you're right.
But I'm not a hoarder either. But no, I never discard regulations because
Yes.
it's just because I haven't used it yet.
True. Yeah, that doesn't mean just because you haven't used it, that doesn't mean it's wrong. You know
I
what I'm
was
saying?
in law enforcement. They
Yeah, you're
taught me
right.
how
You're right. You're right.
to hit center mass if I was under fire, right?
So you're, oh yeah.
But I had to make decisions
Mhm.
when I got to that point.
Mhm. Mhm.
I never discarded what to do because I hadn't been there yet. Because there was always a day that I could be there. And I take that same train of thought that I may not be under fire yet,
Yes.
but that
Yeah.
number 3, whatever that is, may seem frivolous right now. It's just not applicable
Next
for
time.
the,
Yeah.
it will be at some point.
Yes. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
It all makes sense.
It does make
Makes
sense.
sense.
So that's why I say I've never had that I was writing a regulation or something was,
Mhm.
it just did not apply maybe in that moment at that time. But doing it long enough, something will. Like right now, I have nothing to do with international cases because we have veterans that are overseas,
Oh.
okay?
Right.
So I can kind of brush past that. But that does not mean I won't get an international case at one day.
True.
So I can't just say that international stuff is
No,
baloney.
Yeah.
It's not applicable right
Like
now.
right now.
And
Yes.
that's why I say that.
Okay. Yes, I understand. Very good. Very good conversation.
Okay.
That will be my last question,
Okay.
actually, ma'am. So I don't know if you want to add any more on our conversation. Nothing.
I don't think so. I think I answered everything.
Yeah.
I think you did very well.
Thank you so much.
Once you relaxed a little bit. But it was good.
But
It was
yes,
good.
thank you so much, Dr. Glenn. Again.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
All righty.
Yay.